Hello, friends, and welcome to the Driving Loaded podcast, where two former Army Rangers provide insight to their life post-military, a unique perspective on life, family, and careers. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Bye. Beep. All right.
Lane is hot.
Yeah, Lane is hot. So is this microphone. And so today is another episode for the Driving Loaded, and yes, it is the 4th of May. And for you, not Star Trek, but what the hell, Star Wars, yeah, Star Wars nerds, may the 4th be with you. That's as much as we'll go into Star Wars. Today we have a guest, Dan. He's been on the show before, and mainly Jordan, wanted to bring him back. I'm not trying to single him out. No, calm down. No, it's a good idea. I told Jordan, hey, we need to bring a guest on because right now is a good time to talk to people because a lot of people are at home working from home. So, Dan, welcome back. Jordan, how are you over there in Washington?
Dude, I'm doing great. Weather is phenomenal. We're actually getting a lot of work done for the vocations I'm involved with. So, all things considered, we are very blessed and very, fortunate right now with everything going on.
Awesome. Dan?
Doing pretty good. Have a newborn at home. He's just hit 2 weeks home or 2 weeks old today. So it's been kind of interesting the past couple of weeks, but I guess there's no better time to be working from home when you can be there to support your wife and your newborn. So.
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's good. I'm glad to hear. Things are going well. I'm guessing you've lost maybe a little bit of sleep so far, or
Yeah.
is he one of those little guys that likes to sleep? Because there are those kids that do that.
No, it's mostly been my wife missing sleep. I've missed some, but I feel worse for her because she's the one who's actually got to be up to feed him every couple hours. So.
Gotcha. You're not producing any milk these days.
No. Against popular belief, just because you have nipples doesn't mean you can produce milk.
Yeah, great.
I think it was Meet the Fockers or something like that. Meet the Parent.
Yeah, I've got nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?
But he come out with that. What do they call that? That prototype that essentially you can put the breast milk in and the baby can latch on, so the guy could strap that joker on and be a pseudo mother for a quick sec.
Mm-mm. Yeah, no, yeah. I'm not for that.
That's a hard pseudo no.
I just feel like that's going to lead to identity issues down the road.
Yes,
it messes with the psyche, the science. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, dude, I could go on a whole diatribe on that as far as identity and whatnot. We all know where that's going with our current situation. Anyways, Dan, get us up to speed as far as what's been going on in your life since we last spoke.
Let's see. Last time we spoke, I think was right after I moved to North Carolina. So we've really just been getting settled into our house up here. We moved from Atlanta, Georgia. It's been nice coming to North Carolina though, because we got a lot of friends in the area. Even though both of our families are from Washington and California, just being around people who are kind of within your support system has been nice. Bought a brand new house. Had some initial issues with it, a leak into our kitchen, but they've come and fixed it, and just been, trying to maximize, I guess, the amount of time with our friends. And then this quarantine kind of snuck up on us and have kept us away. So I've just been knocking out project after project at the house, and I actually just spent all day yesterday in 90-degree heat staining 2 fences.
Yeah,
mine and my neighbors. I guess it's the Ranger mentality. I can't say no and I can't quit until it's done. So.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can't hire a contractor though. I'm just saying, like at some point, just
Yeah. Every time
I used Bodionomics on this one, and I figured out that it'd be cheaper to buy my own sprayer and actually do it myself than to hire somebody else. So I just decided to do that. By the way, for anybody who doesn't know what Bodionomics is, one of the guys me and Jordan served with, his name's Steve Bodefeld, and he would always come up with ridiculous schemes to save money and just do things as cheaply as possible. His mindset is somewhere completely different.
He's probably a millionaire right now.
He's doing pretty good. He started his own business, living in Missouri. His business actually got bought out, kind of acquired.
Wow.
But he's doing really good. He's got so many things going on at once.
Don't
But
we all?
doing really, really well.
Yeah, he definitely, you meet that guy one time and talk to him for more than 5 minutes. Like you can't get enough of him, one, but it's just like his brain works so differently and it's not bad. It's just different. We all have our flair on life and he definitely has his. Miss you, Steven.
Yep.
No, that's good. It's good to hear. But yeah, so we're gonna talk a little bit about you and your wife just had your first child. Congratulations on that. It's a huge life change. You guys actually have gone through two major life changes. You guys have moved, and you had a child. And when you think about it, when you sit down and think about it in this fast paced world, those are major life changing events. And um, being the typical ranger mentality or whatever, we're like, yeah, whatever, it's not a big deal, we'll just keep driving on. And so I've made the mistake in the past years that hey, I'm just going to drive on, and then it catches back up to you, and then those life-changing events really change your life and can add a lot of stress that you're not realizing and cause some issues. So how are I guess things are going well since you've only had your child for 2 weeks. So
Yeah. We've been pretty blessed since the quarantine and stuff. I've been able to continue to work from home. Some things have changed because the hospital policies changed. So like my wife had uh, my mom was planning on coming out. Her mom was planning on coming out to basically see our first born child, and it'd be both of their first grandkids. And I think for my mom, the next cousin is 8 years away, and I think for on my wife's side, he's 14 now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been a while since they've had a new grandkid, and so both of them had to cancel flights to come out here, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yep.
And like I said, we don't really have any other family out here, so that part has been kind of hard. But again, I guess the blessing to see is that I can work from home, and we're not having to worry about when can we pay the bills, or are we going to have the financial support or means to do what we need to week. Um, and then just being able to be home, even though I'm working. If I hear our son's name is Ryder, if I hear him screaming or hollering or something, or if my wife needs help, I can easily step away from the computer from what I've been doing to go help her. So it's kind of been a blessing in disguise. Definitely some negatives to it, but trying to take in all the positives.
No, that's awesome. So go ahead, Jordan.
I was going to say, I'm glad you bring that stuff up. And, I come from my family, like I have 15 siblings. A lot of my siblings have large families or growing families. And most of my cousins, nephews, nieces, siblings have all been like healthy. But if you talk to a lot of people, it's not all the time where you have a healthy baby, a healthy experience, with birth. And there's a lot of complications that can happen. So I think sometimes we'll gloss over the fact of the matter is when you have someone born that the mom and the baby are healthy and no major complications, that's already a miracle in itself. So obviously it is horrible that the grandmothers can't be part of that process, but I'm thankful for friends like you that have, we tried to have kids for years. So we went through a lot of the fertility type stuff. And so we did talk to a lot of people that had major complications and, babies die, different complications from that. And so you hear about a lot of that stuff. And I don't want to take this moment and not at least acknowledge the fact that, it does suck, but you guys are also blessed at the same time, financially, physically. You have a nice, safe house to bring it into. You think about, a lot of the world. We watched this movie over the weekend and, looking at different parts of the world, and there are these shacks, like 1-bedroom shack for 5 people. Like tin. So the fact of the matter is even with all this going on, we still have so much to be thankful for in our given situations right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be. I mean, I think the number one thing people want when they have their first child or any child really is, to make sure that they're as healthy as possible. And he's had some things that the doctors wanted to check out. His oxygen levels were a little bit lower than they'd like, but ultimately he got checked out and he's perfectly healthy and fine. So, we're incredibly happy to bring home a healthy child. Just can't, just looking forward to the years ahead and everything that comes with it. And then the fact that also, my wife Tanya was fine as well. She kind of had a rough labor. I will say that wasn't great, but she's had a pretty speedy recovery from it. A lot of people who don't have kids, and including myself prior to 2 weeks ago, I don't think really realize the amount of trauma the body goes through when you're giving birth to a child. And so um, props to all the moms out there that have gone through that and continue
Hmm.
to go through it, because I've learned a lot in the last couple of weeks. And um, I just have so much more respect for my wife, and just how strong she is.
Well, she's definitely a great woman, and I'm glad she's stuck by your side this long.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't want to be that guy, but I will this go around. She's phenomenal. We know Tanya well, and every time we get to hang out with you guys, it's always something that we leave, not just from you, but because of her presence as well. Like we are better people because of you guys. So it's good to hear that you're giving that positive feedback back.
Yeah, thanks.
Something with parenting and the idea of like we kind of joked about it early on, but when the mom has to get up because she's like we didn't have that situation because we were bottle feeding, so we both took turns and all that kind of stuff. So obviously you have different schools of thought. Like, did you guys like have a framework of how you're going to kind of operate the first month, or like, hey, when the baby gets up, like you're going to get up and help, and like, did you guys discuss this prior to some of the mechanics of parenting?
A little bit. I mean, definitely a lot of it we've been figuring out on the fly, but we discussed, she's going to have to get up to feed the baby every couple hours. And then I told her, try and take naps whenever you can, and I'll take care of everything else to the best of my ability. Taking care of the house, the animals, doing dishes, laundry, all that kind of stuff. And especially for the first week, I definitely helped a lot, but then I've been starting to slowly, getting back to work. And so, unfortunately, I've been stepping away from a few of those duties, but uh, I'm still helping out as best as I can. And then, throughout the day, as I can be there, whether that's holding Ryder for a little bit, or trying to make sure that he's content and quiet while she tries to take a nap, whatever it may be, or while she even tries to go to the bathroom, just short little breaks to try and get away. I'm there to help as best as I can.
That's cool. I would say this, and maybe Pete can spend more time here because he's a little bit older of a father than I am. But I have a 6 and a 7-year-old, and you always hear like the older generation say like, oh, cherish the moments, like time's gonna fly by, and you're always kind of like, yeah, like I can't wait to get out of this season of life, like until the baby's sleeping through the night. And I think we're close enough in age, you can probably relate that I'm not blowing smoke up your rear end. Time does fly by. I looked at like some Facebook pictures that repopulated from like 6 years ago, and it's like I missed those moments. And honestly, I wish I'd have cherished them more. But because you are in that, like you said, on the fly, you're just figuring things out, and you're like survival mode half the time when you're living on 2 hours of sleep. I kind of wish someone closer to me would have been like, dude, cherish those moments. Even when you're frustrated, hold the baby tight. Like remember these moments and enjoy them. But so yeah, it does fly by, right, Pete?
Yeah, it does. No, as Jordan is talking about that, yeah, not to beat a dead horse or anything, but yes, do cherish those moments. Take lots of pictures, take lots of video. Something that was recommended to me that I didn't do, that I failed to do, was either have a journal, or some people use an email. You write an email to your kids, whatever. You have a thought in your head, like hey, something popped in your head today. You can type out that email real quick, and you send it to yourself, to that account. They don't have access to it until you deem, hey, maybe, when they're 18, 21, 25, 30, whatever it is. And that way you and both of y'all can go back and look at that and say, holy cow, because you're not always going to remember everything. I don't. I've forgotten so many things. And then, cherishing those little moments. My daughter's 10 years old, and hormones are kicking in, and it's brutal, man. It's brutal. Eyes roll. Like, dude, it's, and trying to find a way to discipline in a healthy manner, because I can't, I'm not going to spank her. So, yeah, so it's a big challenge, but, it makes me miss when she was a little baby, because it was so much fun. And I mean, I think things are great now too, because, we can do a lot of things together, fish, ride bikes, things like that. But, yeah, definitely write those things down, man. Because you're going to forget them. You're a human, you're going to forget them. So, I'm going to try to do that, recall a lot of stuff, and I'm going to really focus on writing, even though I'm terrible at it. But that's a recommendation I have is, there's that time they're going to piss you off to no end. So you just got to live with it.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. I never thought of that. Writing to basically an email to kind of keep a journal, because especially to keep it digitally, you could lose a notebook, you could have a fire, God forbid, something could happen where you lose it. But I have thought about journaling, but I really like that idea of just sending, a daily note or a weekly note or something to an email. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that a lot of us could do that just because it'll help us remember things. Because when you do get older, you're like, man, I wish I would have taken more pictures. I wish I would have done that. I'm already saying that right now. So there's still time, though. We're still alive. We're still breathing. There's still time to write those memories down. And so because I'm going off of a Zoom meeting that Jordan chimed in on a little bit for a few minutes the other day with some old One Charlie Mad Slashers, which is phenomenal. But if you don't write those things down, you're not going to remember them, and they're lost. They're lost forever. So if I write these things down, maybe write kind of what I did in the military, not go into grave detail or whatever, but then your legacy or you will live on, and your children be like, hey, this, I actually knew what my dad did. Because how many folks are like, well, I don't know what my uncle or my dad did in the war, because he never says anything about it. So I think that writing, can be a really good therapeutic process. And it also lets your kids know, hey, look, this is what your dad did, and this is what he was going through, and this is why he was angry sometimes. And so, I think it's good for everyone.
Yeah, that's great. One thing I know I'm blessed with, because my both my family and my wife's family kept baby books and kind of kept pictures from the past and stuff like that. Well, back then you had to get either one of those roll up cameras or a Polaroid or something like that to take pictures and then stuff away photos somewhere. But man, I've probably taken, honestly, at least 1,000 photos in the last 2 weeks.
Good.
And luckily I pay for I think a Google subscription or something. So I have near unlimited storage, so I can take as many photos as I want. And I hope to continue doing that. But yeah, I've been trying to capture every moment that I can. But definitely doing some sort of journal is an awesome idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I just heard from this.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Jordan.
sorry. I just heard from this as a while back, and someone reminded me of this conversation I had back at Walter Reed when my brother's blown up. There's this old salty, I think he was a chaplain then, and I don't know which unit he was with prior, but he had quite a bit of combat experience, and you could tell he's living kind of in a fragile state when I talked to him. But anyways, he had told me that, there's a lot of things he was involved with that he couldn't address emotionally, mentally at that time. But he would do is write it down, sometimes good, sometimes bad. He would write it down and put it in a shoebox. And the idea of that is like memories, just because you don't recall them right now does not mean they don't have an effect on you. So the theory was that at some point when he had the time to actually stop and let these things weed through them in your mind, he would take it out. And when you see there'd be like a title and maybe like a scent that might be associated with it. I think the olfactory bulb, like the idea of the scent connecting with the memory to help you really understand it. Some major sense that you might have thought that you smelled that day or whatever. But the idea is then even for like children type experiences, like we even write a topic down, put it in the shoebox, and then years later you can even discuss it. But the idea is to be able to weed out, he was using it for more of the negative thing, to where the memory's still there, but how do you go back to that memory and process it effectively? And so I was thinking about that, with the idea of kids, if you can use that for the positive as well, because sometimes you forget about it. But if you just put a quick note, put it in the shoebox, and then at some point come back and address it. And then even too, like years later, to be able to take these and then just use that as fodder for stories and campfire stories and whatever. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Even like life lesson topics that I know pop into my brain every once in a while, but I'm sure I'll forget it 10 years from now when I need to recall it. Yeah, that's a great idea. Definitely writing all these down. Don't worry.
Hey, it's being recorded, so
It is.
You can always go back and. How old are you, Dan?
I have had my 29th birthday anniversary twice.
Okay. All right. I don't know.
I forgot about when your birthday was for a second.
Apparently, I guess I'm not read on to that. I was gonna say I was gonna guess 29, so I just turned
Yeah,
39.
no,
So
I'm
yeah.
31, but I kid with people that I every year I just have my 29th birthday over again.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. 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 Hey, man, it don't work. Dude, for 30 for me was like whatever. I don't care. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Next year will be 40 for me, so I'll probably have to get the walker with the tennis balls. So, yeah. Nah, just kidding.
Isn't that when the ARB magazines start to get sent out your direction?
No, I hope not. I pray that that's not the case. I'm trying to stay active. I'm trying to get back on my mountain bike and ride again. That is amazing. I love doing that. It's a lot of fun, except for when you biff it real hard because you think you're brave, and then you realize, oh, that was not a good idea. I'm not 21 anymore.
So what you're saying is we should start a GoFundMe account right now for your 40th birthday for that walk-in shower situation that door shuts, fills with water.
Yes. Well, I have a shower and a bathtub, so that would be perfect. I'll rip out the old shower, put in,
Exactly.
bro. I'm ready.
So
Don't.
practical.
Hey, I'll take one right now. I don't even care. I can
No,
sit
that's
down
cool.
and bathe. Come on.
Hey, we should chat about the idea of that one Charlie reunion we had later tonight, and not just that, but how can we do more of that? Like it was very impromptu, last minute, where I jumped into it, but it was it did this. Like I told Torres, I was like it did the soul good to see the faces and hear the voices again. I hadn't talked to some of those guys in I don't know 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Torres, I've maintained contact with him quite a bit, and he just hit me up. He's like, "Hey, you want to get in on the Zoom meeting? We got some One Charlie guys in here and whatnot." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not? I'll check it out, say hi to these guys and whatnot." And there was Torres, Anderson, and Robertson. And then he hit up our old platoon sergeant, Jeremiah Congdon, and he came on and he stayed on for a long time. I was really surprised, and dude, it was crazy. Like I don't want to say eerie, but it was like really cool because I heard some stories I'd never heard before, and he was, everybody's recalling things that had happened throughout the years and whatnot. And it was really good to just kind of sit down and talk about different things and get some advice from everybody, really. I think everybody has a little bit to give in this thing we call life, and share the experiences you have. And especially Jeremiah, he was up at Bragg for the remainder of his time in the military from when he left Ranger Regiment. So he experienced a lot of things. He almost died. So it was really good to see them. And I think, just like Jordan said, it's really important. I think we should do that more often. And I mean, in a way, I guess we're kind of doing that right now. We were all in the same company, different platoons, but I think it's really good. And I think people should do it more often.
Agreed. So I think we should do like practically speaking, like Ranger School reunion guys. Like I can imagine some of the stories from just Ranger School and having like just a couple hour conversation, giggling about some of the shenanigans we went through, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It did, and it was the cool part of it. We have the technology in front of us. It's one email away from making it happen, but the outcome is phenomenal. So we should start some groups and figure out when to start scheduling these. Because I mean, even an hour every other week or whatever. Like, what the heck else are people doing right now?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had let's see, I me and my wife were at my brother-in-law's birthday, Zoom birthday, a few weeks ago. And then since we have had our newborn, like we've gotten both of our sides of our family together to do a Zoom meeting. Um, I think my side we've actually done two now, one right before his birth and then one right after. So it's been pretty cool to, like, even though we'd love for them to be there in person, I honestly don't know if we would have been able to get our entire family together to be like,
Hmm.
here's our new son, look at him, on a video conference call. Like it probably would have been one-offs. It wouldn't have been the whole family getting together. But yeah, doing it for within any military organization, I think would be awesome. And right now is definitely the time to probably try and push that a little bit harder because, man, the amount of depression and probably suicide rates and stuff, I'm sure, are just going to skyrocket from, all this quarantining and staying away from people. And just being able to, like you said, see people's faces, I think goes a little bit further than a text or even a phone call.
Yeah, it's a little more personal. And I'll be the first one to admit I'm fine with the quarantine. Like nothing has changed for me. I go to work every day. I raced home from work. I had to wash myself down because I had powder and all sorts of other, not cocaine or anything. Don't get crazy. So, but powder and sandblasting. So it's like I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I'm doing, and but to have this where a lot of people are supposed to stay home. I actually enjoy it because I don't really like people to begin with. So, it's awesome. So I'm okay with it. But no, I understand we all need to get back to work. We all the society needs to get back in the swing of things. But no, you're right, Dan. Having the technology that we have in the 21st century is something that I feel like we take for granted. So the advantages of all the technology that we have, we can, like you did, you had both families all on Zoom, watching, and I mean, take advantage of it. I think it's great. And I think that we don't do it enough. We love technology, but we've kind of put others to the wayside per se, with technology. We don't engage or interact with people as much, and, use your technology for your advantage. Have Zoom meetings with, friends, family, or whatever. I think that'll actually help improve the morale of a lot of people. Instead of, a lot of people are really bummed out and in a really tight spot right now with all the things going on. So it's an option.
Yeah. One thing I just thought of that maybe I'll try and implement before I'll make the statement, but maybe I'll try and implement it so that it's something that I'm actually taking action on. But man, there's so much negativity on social media, and I really appreciate like where Jordan's been coming from lately. He's been making some pretty good posts on social media, trying to take the positives out of some negative situations. But instead of contributing to or getting sucked into the negativity, spend that hour that you would have spent on Facebook and instead pick up the phone, call somebody, or schedule a Zoom meeting with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of leaning into the negativity. Just try and get some positivity out of it. There have been too many people on like ranger websites and stuff like that, and on Facebook groups that have been attacking people that I know that they're only doing it because it's basically a faceless group.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they were face to face with each other, they'd be clanking glasses, chugging beers, talking
Mm-hmm.
about war stories, shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
They would not be, fighting each other over the nuances of what's in the news today. And I know that's happening all over social media. I was just pointing out one group. Just take that time instead of having the negativity. Spend it actually talking to each other. Schedule a Zoom meeting like we were just talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't agree more with that. And I think I started writing more positive posts because I want to, I guess, just a way of expressing one, obviously your feelings and your thoughts, and why not? If you can have some positive influence on people, why not? One day I told my wife, like, I can't do this crap anymore. Like, I'm getting off here. And then I'm like, no, you know what? I'm not going to let their negativity like beat out positivity. So that's the starting point. But to your point, Dan, I actually took most of my social media time out and I started reading books. And the weird thing is, like, not just learning a lot more, I feel better every day and I'm more positive. And honestly, the businesses I'm like part of are doing better. And it's like my thoughts are clear, like my actions are more strategic, more aligned with where I want to go. It's just overall, I'm a better person because of just literally the small tweak of going to Facebook for that 20 minutes, but instead I'm going to a book now. Mm-hmm. Definitely made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I since the 2 weeks I've been home, I've honestly watched very minimal TV or movies or anything like that. Honestly, our house has been pretty quiet when we're just sitting around, like our son's taking a nap or something, and I'll be reading a book, or we'll be looking up some new project to do or something. We've been spending that time kind of just being quiet and in peace, and just in each other's presence, but not necessarily stuck on our phones looking at Facebook or doing something like that. We've been trying to maximize that time to really gain something from that time, where we're just trying to be peaceful.
Sure. I totally understand where you're coming from right now. I can put myself in those shoes. Like, when there's a moment where you can have some silence, it's good to collect your thoughts and actually take the silence and use it to your benefit.
Mhm.
Something that Pete
Yeah.
had mentioned was talking about like the idea of raising children, like with like right now in this current climate, or is that going to have a long-term effect? And maybe Pete, you can structure the question better, but is that going to have a long-term effect on how we raise our kids? Like right now, you're just now you're looking at the lens of parenting through this current COVID crisis. Like you obviously watch parents parent and that kind of stuff. But when you do it yourself, it's different. Are are we going to do things differently because of what we're seeing unfold in front of us? Like, kind of intrigued by that conversation a little bit.
So I I guess it's a two-part answer. Yes, I think so. I think a lot of people will go about raising their kids and go about life differently, completely different, just because of what happened. Yeah, and in a way, I guess I can understand that. But a lot of people are also very much very much a follower. They don't sit back and they don't take that second to think. Like they don't question everything. Like I generally question everything. It's just my nature. I'm going to question it. I call BS a lot. And a lot of times it comes back right in my face, whatever. But at least I was, man enough to admit, hey, look, maybe I spoke too soon. But part of it, I don't think we should raise our children any different. Yeah, we should keep them safe, be cognizant of what's out there as far as diseases and things like that, practice good hygiene. But I think that's something that we should already be doing, period. Like we shouldn't have the government or somebody else tell us to, like, hey, go wash your ass. Don't be a nasty person. Like, come on, like really? And so I'm not going to raise my daughter any differently. Like every day is a challenge with her, just because she's, at that stage, she's 10 years old. So things are getting really interesting at this point. So for me personally, no, I'm not gonna change anything. I'm gonna go business as usual and carry on. So, but I mean, that's my 32 cents on that.
I think for people who had something prior to the quarantine that they utilized as a service, um, like for instance, me and my wife were just talking about daycares and stuff like that. Like that's going to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee the function, the overall function of a daycare is forever going to be somewhat shaped differently. Not saying for forever, but I think for daycares to open, a lot of parents are going to be hesitant, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have a lot of additional policies and stuff like that that they're going to say, okay, well, if your kids come to this daycare, we're going to take their temperature every time they come into the door. If they have slightly fever, we're going to turn them away. We're going to practice, more hygiene, washing hands, stuff like that. Like things are going to change a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or that was a big one we were talking about, but even playgrounds and stuff like that are being shut down right now, because they want to keep people distant from each other. They're roping off playgrounds. um, like but in my neighborhood, for instance, the kids are still getting together and figuring out how to play, whether they throw a ball in the backyard or they just chase each other and play tag or whatever. Like kids are going to be kids. And so I think that's good. I think they should be. But yeah, I just think some of the service industries that are, or even in the schools are going to be different now. How they're managed daily is going to change. I've seen that some schools are even going to do a better job having online coursework and stuff like that, so that if kids do get sick, they're sent home and actually stay home, and they're more supported, being at home and still getting, the curriculum that they need from the house, as opposed to, basically getting in trouble for being sick too often,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that happens a lot. So like little thing, I guess not little things, major things like that, I think are going to be affected and changed.
But no, but I don't think that's a negative, honestly. Like the school system, like, and I'm very pro school, don't in the education system in general, but I do think it's broken to a large degree. And what I mean by that is I think individual teachers are phenomenal, put a lot of time and effort into their craft, but the system in general does not incentivize good behaviors from teachers. It just doesn't. It rewards longevity, not quality. So, and then we put these testing metrics in place. It doesn't train good behaviors. It actually trains bad behaviors for actual education, because every kid learns differently. But when you need it, your gauge of success for a teacher is the tests that you're giving your students. The whole system is broke. But the idea of what's happening now, it's making them think differently. Like the idea of maybe we don't even need as many educators potentially. What if we had less days in school and more days from remote? And then going down to like the idea of like the childcare scenario. How often is it that a mother, especially, is still in our this day and age, because of, like we talked about earlier, like there's just certain things that kids need from a mom for X amount of months. The moms end up taking the backseat to vocations, and we look at it like, oh, it's just the way it is. But that mom is a source, not a resource, but a source for that company. She provides value, and every time that mom gets sidelined because of life, the company and the country and the world sacrifice something. There's some commodity we're not getting, that deliverable that mom could provide, we're losing out on. So I think the idea of childcare has to change anyhow. So I think, you're going to see, you talk about service industry. Well, sure. But now what about like the care.com, the nanny.com, like some of the Uber for childcare? What other areas can we actually increase benefits from companies to a mother to be able to provide in-home care for her kids? So she can either telecommute or telework, whatever they call that, or physically go into work, but have a presence in the home. So now we're also employing more people. So we have to build those systems up through company level stimulation type programs. But I think the idea of what's happening right now is actually a good reset, because we're working on a standard for a long time. So every once in a while, I think a reset in our society is not a bad thing, to reevaluate current practices.
I think definitely companies are learning how to maximize their benefit from the digital landscape now, especially working from home and still being able to function. Like my company went entirely work from home, outside of our client projects where folks actually need to go on site to commission systems. People are working from home. And even as our offices open, I think a lot more people are going to be more open or adamant to working from home if they're capable of doing that, if they're still productive. And, we don't have a ton of women in our workspace, but we do have some. And so I foresee, if and when they do start having children, the company being much more flexible to basically supporting them working from home and still being able to care for their child. And I see a lot of companies being able to do that now that they can see that their company can still function with mothers working from home, or even dads working from home. Whoever needs to stay home to support your child if they can't go to school or they can't go to daycare, whatever it may be.
Yeah, we're kind of in the construction realm. It's actually, I want to shift gears for a second here and get your opinions on this. So we do have a few of us and I'm kind of in a weird position here because I do work for a construction company, but also work, for the LoadTrax product, which is obviously digital in nature. So I haven't, in fact, my workload has actually increased. We've had more interactions with potential clients and new clients because they are trying to digitize their paper process, which is obviously good for our business. We're structured and postured well right now for that. But something that I'm realizing is, like, going back to a broken system. So we did this stimulus package and did, extended unemployment benefits, making it easier, making them longer, making them, more attractive. So now, like right now, we did this payroll protection thing for our employees. So we have 2 months where we have to bring all of our employees back, or at least 90% of them. And then if we fulfill certain aspects of this, we get the amount forgiven for two months. So it's a sizable amount of money that we have to comply with XYZ. The problem is some of these employees, based off their, positions and how long they've been there for, the unemployment benefits are actually paying more with this kicker they're giving, like $600 a week or whatever. So to sit at home and do nothing, they're going to get paid more, but we have to bring them back. It's like, and then the system doesn't necessarily, like, good behavior is not rewarded, either direction, I guess. So that's an area where too, like, where the knee-jerk responses to certain things aren't always good either, because they're not actually thought through and matriculated out. How is it actually going to affect businesses that are trying to do this? So now, and not even just the financial piece, now we're creating a lot of toxic culture. So now, like, I have to try to convince someone to come to work that I'm paying them for. Like, I got an email from a guy today, like I could hardly get a hold of him last week. And he's like, yeah, sorry, I was doing some side stuff. Like, there's just no, like, true accountability, because when I'm going to fire the guy, like, we have to keep our numbers up. It's just weird system right now. So, like, the unemployment system, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this in general, like with the current, the filter in which we're seeing the world through right now. Is there better solutions out there potentially for this whole environment, I guess?
Dan, go ahead.
My whole problem with the stimulus funding and the unemployment benefits is it's going to definitely benefit quite a few Americans who need it, who have lost their jobs, but there's going to be plenty of people who are going to take advantage of it or that it can
Hmm.
help. For instance, a lot of my family is in Washington. A lot of them basically were furloughed or laid off um, when the quarantine basically started. And you're right, they started making more money because they've got the state unemployment benefits plus the federal unemployment benefits kicked in. They were making more money than they were if they were working full time for the company. But then recently, both of them basically went back to work. Um, that's great for them, but for the individual business owner who owns their own business, if you look at a lot of these companies that have been applying for the small business loans or not business loans, but the business relief funds and stuff like that, that money went out right away. It was gone, depleted almost overnight. And you had medium to semi-large companies who were basically had the ability to fill out the paperwork fast enough, get it in, and try and get that funding. Whereas other small businesses that maybe are a mom and pop shop or only have a few employees didn't have the bandwidth to understand what they needed to fill out and submit it. They didn't get their funding because that relief package was depleted so quickly. So I think the one shoe fits all approach isn't beneficial to everybody, clearly. And the other thing is, everybody got $1,200 stimulus package money, and then if you're married and if you have kids, obviously it went up. But $1,200 in even here in North Carolina versus $1,200 in Washington State is completely different money. Um, and then if you go to somewhere like New York or California, it's even worse. So again, when it comes to these stimulus packages and the relief bills, I just wish there was more. I know it took long enough already to get these packages approved and out to the masses, but I just wish with all the fighting and stuff like that, there were people working off to the side of how they're actually going to be implemented and how it's going to benefit everybody. Put more kind of I guess checks in place so that people are looking at the types of companies that are applying for these small business relief funds, or looking at what's the economic landscape look like for every person, throughout the U.S. And is $1,200 going to be good enough? Can we increase that or can we decrease that? For instance, me and my wife continued working, or I continued working. I don't need the government's money. I didn't need it. And so we've been talking about ways to give it back, give it to the American Red Cross or try and find a local charity. We have a food bank here that we've been talking about potentially giving it to because we didn't need it. We don't need it. I wish there was a way that I could have declined it and given it to somebody else that actually needed it.
Yeah, I don't think some of that details are even like fully known to most people, but it really appears that there's going to be some backside negative effect to this with the way your taxes are structured next year. So when you're paying into the system this full year, what are your returns going to look like next year?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fully, what I understand of it is there's going to be a ripple effect that if you, let's say you want to donate it, and that's full well and good, but that might still be coming out of your pocket twice then, because come the end of the year, when you pay into your taxes, you might owe more based off the stimulus. And I'm not 100% sure on that, but I've been seeing some different literature on that. So I think there's some blindsidedness to that too. And I don't think, like you said, the one shoe size fits all obviously was never going to work. But I do think the idea is if you could stimulate the economy, sure, the effect of the 1,200 from, one part of the country to the next is not going to be the same. But if you can stimulate the economy enough where people maybe keep their jobs, or, they have enough money going into the system, whether it's, online shopping or whatever, but just the idea of keeping that, the economy moving some versus the complete halt, the greater good is definitely still benefiting some, because there's no good solution when it's a catastrophe like it was, or still is rather.
Yeah, I agree. And I have also read that, it may affect our tax return next year, which makes sense. Money's got to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But
But be honest about it. Like, let people know what's going to happen. Maybe you should save that money. Maybe you should put it in a savings account because it's going to come out next year. It's like,
sure, but again,
people should know this stuff.
yeah, they should absolutely. If you're in a financial place to where $1,200 is going to make or break you, and even if it's $1,200 that gets multiplied twice, so you get $1,200 back from the federal government that you've already paid. You've already paid those taxes. Now you're getting it as a stimulus. now you're going to potentially have 1,200 additional dollars next year that you're going to have to pay into your taxes because they're trying to get that money back.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that could happen. For me and my family, we're in a position to where that's not going to impact us that much. That's
Mm-hmm.
not going to do anything to negatively affect our finances. And so I would rather take that money and give it to somebody who truly needs it than necessarily hold on to it and worry about 1,200 additional dollars next tax season. And I know not everybody's in that boat. I'm not saying anybody, really nobody should listen to my advice. It's my advice for my household. But if you are in a financial place, like there's people that make $120,000 in, I don't know, in the sticks somewhere, who's got everything paid off, that just got a $1,200 stimulus. They probably have enough money to where they could give that to somebody who needs it. And what I told Tanya too is like the first priority for us is to look at our family. If anybody in our family needs some help, some financial assistance, we'd obviously give it to them first. But I checked in with my family. Everybody's doing okay. I'm not worried about them. So then my next step is, okay, what can I help in my community that this money could go to? And that's kind of where I'm looking at it.
All very good points. I guess I've got several thoughts on it. Yeah, we're gonna have to. It's our money, and we've already paid taxes on it. We're gonna have to pay taxes on it again. That makes me livid. Like I hate interest. I hate taxes. I mean, it's like, oh my God, it's brutal. And so
There is positive interest out there too, just FYI.
yes, there is. I heard about it on a podcast I was listening to. Anyways, other time. That's another time. But yeah, I'm kind of with with both of y'all actually on it. Like, if you don't need it, if it's not something that, like, if it's gonna make or break you, yeah, use it. Use the money obviously to provide for your family and whatnot. But if you can, put it to the side, because I mean, number one, I don't trust the government at all as far as I can throw them, and because every time you turn around, what do they try to do? They tax you. They tax you on everything. Everything has a surcharge. Everything has a tax on it. And one of our Matt Slasher buddies, he posted tags, for his vehicle. He was paying an astronomical amount for tags in the state of Washington. I'm like, bro, I paid $60. I want to pay $60 for 2 vehicles and a trailer. Like, yeah. Yeah,
It's like
cheap.
$99 for my truck. It's actually a month overdue. Don't tell the feds or cops or whatever, but
Nobody cares. Nobody's gonna say anything. But
except for the ticket I'll get soon when I drive out next time because I forgot to renew them.
It'll be all right. But no, I think it's a great point, Dan, that if you can, put that money to the side. We still have the money. We haven't spent it or anything like that. We've got it sitting to the side. We have plans to spend it, but I think we can reevaluate that. I can try to move some money around here and there. And my CRSC got approved within 3 weeks of submitting it, which is unheard of. So I'm super pumped. Hopefully within the next month or so, I'll start receiving that. But so yeah, if you can hold off, but there isn't a Swiss Army knife for, a problem that we're having in this country. So when you just blast out a bunch, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you got cut off, I think, on the audio. Something that I wanted to have Dan kind of frame some thoughts around.
Go ahead.
As the idea of your background. You came from obviously a Ranger battalion, and you spent multiple deployments leading guys, and you've always had a peculiar way of seeing things. And then going into the education process in which you did and got the degrees you got in, not just that, but the programs you were involved with. I think a lot of it had to do with the way you processed information. And something now you had alluded to it earlier, like, people in their community that would typically never get, at odds with each other, fighting over, moot points, honestly. They're fighting over stupid stuff. And the reason I say it's stupid is because, yes, people are dying, and this is a very serious issue. We don't have enough true data back to really have anybody that's super educated, like on, because hindsight is obviously 2020, but right now we're still in the mix of it with not enough historic data, which obviously the novelty is why it's so scary, because we don't know, right? But one thing I want to have you kind of help build a lens for our community is, as scary as things seem, as daunting as some of the stats or data out there that you do see, it's hard to really process this stuff. And so I guess I just ask you maybe first from a position of like, how do you personally take and filter information that you're getting right now. So for one thing, you see like, the amount of cases. Well, obviously we know that the case count is going to be off because we're not testing. We're not testing near enough people. So like the rates are thrown out there, you can get scared by those numbers, but you can also understand it's way, 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 way misrepresented right now. And no, that was not an error in the technology. I'm trying to really show the importance of slowing down, pumping the brakes, and letting things unfold more before you jump down someone's throat, because the data isn't even all in yet. But that being said, can you help build a lens for us to kind of, we see these things, whether it's on social media, the news, or any other outlets, CDC's websites, the information that you gather, how are you processing this stuff to make rationale behind, a thought process?
Well, I will start by saying that 5G bats are not causing the coronavirus.
Dang it.
No, to me, I always look at source data. So, you know, I have a problem with the media, and then also people on social media who take snippets and then decide to basically blow that up like that's 100% fact. um, for instance, somebody posted the other day, said the CDC reported that the case count or the deaths were 30,000 less than what the media is reporting, and the media is reporting obviously always going to report the worst case. And so they're reporting from, I think, the World Health Organization numbers and Johns Hopkins University. Their reporting process is different. So when you submit a death to the World Health Organization, there's actually a few different organizations that they have to submit it to, but they don't have to submit a basically certified death. It's just a reporting. It's online. I'm pretty sure there's like some system. You basically just the hospital reports, hey, we lost somebody to COVID or whatever it is. Whereas the CDC, when they report their numbers, and it's even a disclaimer on their website. So if you read through the entire text, which this person did not do, if you read through the entire text, it's got a lot of stipulations before they accept it as a COVID death. So, and they say that their numbers are behind. They said usually it's a few weeks behind what the actual death count is. So this person posted a snippet from media that was saying COVID deaths are actually 30,000 below what they actually are, and then even had a link to the CDC where it said that. But if you click that link and actually read through all the text, you would understand that yes, the CDC is 30,000 deaths below whatever the World Health Organization is, but with a caveat saying that they're several weeks behind and they have a completely different system for tracking all the deaths. So that's how I go through things. Is like if somebody's going to report on something and tell me, hey, this is what's being reported, this is what the media is saying, I'm going to go to the source data and actually see for myself what's the actual truth behind that.
So I guess immediate thought or question, I guess, to give, I don't know if it's pushback on that, because I'm not saying I disagree with anything you just said, but even going to the source data, and I was hoping to even go deeper than some of the surface, trivial crap that you're seeing on social. That's going to happen in any topic, situation, whatever. So going back, even take the source data and then even going further back from there, like the tracking of data. So if the CDC says these are requirements to pull the stats in for death, and I'm not trying to go on a conspiracy ledge here. I'm not trying to do that at all. I'm not even trying to say I have any expertise in this area, but I have talked to people that are in the industry directly. And I have friends that are physicians, and they're not the expert in the CDC wing either, but they are doctors. They are in the ED departments, that kind of stuff. But the idea of if someone died and then they happen to have COVID as well, the idea of taking that stat and putting in there as well. Like, so even going to that level, like how do we start breaking these things down to make a rational decision based off what we're, at this given time, the totality of the circumstances dictate these actions. And that's something I'm concerned about as a country. I don't know, like at any level, if we're actually doing that, or can we? Like maybe I'm too pie in the sky right now.
Well, for any factual based study, there has to be very clear guidance that it follows. And the problem with us gathering all these numbers from hospitals and from doctors and stuff like that is they were not provided with very strict guidance of how to report. So yes, they have, whether it's with the World Health Organization, they have basically an online form that they fill out, or if it's through the CDC where they actually do have to show proof of death, and there's like additional certifications and stuff. Like hospitals have to go out of their way to do that. And so I'm guessing that the reason why people are concerned that things are being misreported is because they probably are, but not out of not out of um, I guess their thought that they're trying to skew the landscape. It's probably because it's just human error. They don't know how they're supposed to be reporting things. They don't know that they're supposed to be, marking death certificates a certain way. I was actually talking to a family member, um, my sister actually, who got tested a while ago when California was saying that they were had a mass amount of testing and they were giving back results within a day or two. She had to wait 2 weeks after getting tested. So even whatever they're reporting and saying that they're trying to follow guidelines, like that's not the case for every single hospital, every single testing center. So I think there's a ton of human error. I don't think there's a lot of malicious intent behind it. I think, the data is going to be skewed um, until there's, actual contact tracing going into effect, where people can actually see, okay, this is where the source was. Then we can clearly connect the dots and say, okay, this person was clearly affected by COVID-19 because they had contact with this person who had it and they did die from it. Well, then, yeah, their death should be qualified as a COVID death, something like that. There needs to be a lot more in-depth analysis to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I still have, reservations in general about the system. Like, so going back to like the guidelines, and that's where I was kind of going, I probably didn't do a great job kind of laying the foundation of that question for you. But the idea of the data coming in, the idea of having a very strict guideline for how this data is to be compiled. So when you get the data together, it actually makes sense. You can actually do something with that data. But when the sources are also fragmented on their understanding, interpretation of what their requirements are, the true source is always skewed. It's broken. So like anything we're doing right now is coming from a broken decision-making process. If that makes sense, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's not political. Like both sides are screwing up big time right now. And even the way we're communicating these things, like, if you don't know something, I think it's okay to say, I don't know right now. Are some people can get scared? Sure they are, but they're getting scared anyways.
Yeah. And I come from a very engineering and science-based community. I'm also from the military community. So I often have very conflicting arguments from the two sides that I'm very connected to. The thing that I will say to try and put ease in everybody's mind is there's not one scientist or one engineer that I've met that I can honestly say that I believe they would go out of their way to skew numbers to scare people, or they would go out of their way in a malicious intent to basically fluff some numbers or get people worried or scared. I'm not saying that's not happening, but within my community, I can't point to a single person that I would think that. And so to me, I think the problem is with not enough guidance and a lot of human error.
Yeah, so I'll kick back a little bit on that. I'll throw some shade out there. So I do believe that there are people that are skewing numbers and that are deliberately causing panic, causing fear, instilling that, and that's generally the news outlets, which is what we talked about at the beginning. Like, hey, don't watch that crap, because the more you watch it, the more you're going to go into panic. So I wholeheartedly believe that. Now, just like to what you said, I do agree with you to a point that the scientists, the medical professionals are not skewing things. However, there are people with pre-existing conditions. Let's say I go into, I've heard of cases where somebody had a pre-existing condition, whether it's, whatever, a disease, something, and they died, but yet they had COVID, they had Corona. And so they're like, well, that's a Corona death. No, it's not. It's like this dude was 85 and he could barely breathe, and now he had Corona. Now it's a cause of Corona. No, dude was old. Like, so that, and then also with the you've seen a lot of people, they're like projecting. We project X amount of infections, X amount of cases of COVID. We expect this many deaths, 2 million deaths. We're not, dude, we're not even close to that. And so what's happening is and this will play right with, in your lane here, Dan, with scientists and the doctors. What they're doing is they're putting numbers into a computer. The computer is telling them what is going to be projected. And I'm like, okay, well, it's going based off of what happened yesterday, not what is going to happen a month from now. So
Mhm.
no one can tell the future that I've ever met. So, and so, yeah, we're all going to die. Guess what? There's your bad news. I told the future. But the thing is that they're projecting these things based off of numbers from yesterday. So yeah, okay, all right, but in their delivery method, like you said, the way they're delivering it is not the best way to do it. And a lot of people in this country, unfortunately, like I said earlier, don't ask the questions. They don't question everything. They just follow around, like sheep do. And so I'm going to be the first person that's going to call BS and be like, So yeah, and I hope nobody's just giving us false information. And medical doctor, I know the medical professionals are doing a tremendous job, and they're trying to do everything they can to keep everybody alive. And I'm very thankful for that. I have a lot of friends and family that are in the medical field. So, but yeah, it's a difficult time. There's so much stuff going around and coming at us that people are taking advantage of the situation. Like a lot of people say, don't let a crisis go to waste. So you can kind of take that how you want it. So
The one thing I will say about the pre-existing conditions, because I also believe this is a very big problem. Um, Again, not enough guidelines behind it because, um, for instance, somebody who's older who say has had heart attacks in the past or has had lung cancer or something like that, if they get pneumonia, even though they have those pre-existing conditions, their death certificate's going to say pneumonia. So that is the case with what should be happening with COVID-19. Now, it is also the case where people have serious problems where I don't know how factual this is. This is just one that I read and I didn't go back to the source data, but I do believe it's probably happening. Somebody died of a heart attack, but they had COVID-19, and so they marked it as a COVID death.
mm,
So if that is the case, I think that is very wrong to mark it as a death caused by COVID-19. Um, and that's where the guidelines should come into place. Like somebody needs to write out a very clear, like if you're going to report, these are the symptoms that this person needs to be showing, and the cause of death clearly needs to be from the disease, not from something else.
mm.
Because they could have, I mean, any one of these people could have been asymptomatic to COVID-19, but had a heart attack, had a stroke, something like that. And if it is the case where they are marking those as COVID deaths, then I do have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same
So,
here.
But again,
with reporting though, before you go on from that point real quick, the idea of just being for the stats sake, that's one thing. And I think the popular term right now is downstream effect. I've been hearing that a lot, which it does sound really good. Look at the hospitals right now; they're a business. They do facilitate a very phenomenal service, right? But they are a business. To stay profitable, to stay organizationally viable, you have to have money coming in your doors, right? Things cost a lot of money. So right now, the government has stepped in and said, we think we know best what you guys need. And right now, it's to shut down every single lane except for this lane to keep your business open. Well, business is not just singular lanes that keep them operationally, financially, operational. So the idea of what's happening right now is we're crippling them, right? So we're taking all their income source in to operate. They're laying off people by the millions across the country. And now the insurance industry as a whole has said, hey, and is based off of right now the current guidelines, if there's a COVID-related death in your hospital, and I think it ties back to the vent and some of the funding from the feds on that as well. So the idea of this is, I don't think it's malicious intent, but if the hospital can benefit, because it's not a lie to say if it was a COVID-related, to put that on there as one of the modalities, to say that, yes, there was a functionality of the death caused by this. It might have been this, and this. But the fact of the matter is, if the hospital can benefit financially, it would be stupid not to, because that's the current guidelines they're working within. But it doesn't help that system, though. Yeah. So going back to following the money trail, I don't think anybody's being malicious intentionally, but we're creating a broken system that's creating a bunch of false data. And I say that because I think we're using data to scare people. And that was this conversation, is to actually go somewhere with it, an actionable conversation where we can say, we don't have to live in fear based off XYZ. Or maybe we do, I don't know. But I guess what I'm seeing now is a lot of data being, like Washington State, for instance. My wife every day pays attention to what's being produced by our governor and governor's office. I have a dog in the fight. I don't agree with his politics most of the time, but I also do believe if we can use science and data, we should. But the problem that I have is he's presenting half truths continually over and over again. So, and I understand that he's still working behind, like you said, a couple of weeks behind on some of the data that's coming in. I get that. But my concern is if we can't tell the whole truth with the science and data package that he wants to portray, you're using data to manipulate it to fit what you believe to be best. So that's where I'm concerned about, is just as a society in general. How do we have these conversations where we're not killing each other, one, and then two, have a future that we can build upon the data we have at this given point? And I believe in modeling. I think we should build models with current data sets to help project what's the best plan we can have based off what we know right now. That's kind of where I was concerned about, like, how do we actually process everything that's happening right now from an analytical standpoint, and not, jump off the ledge with hysteria.
Well, I would tell you that every politician's job is to always have an answer for any question. So every time that they're asked something, like say they put out a new policy and they don't even know everything behind it, because oftentimes it's aides and like staff that are writing these policies. They'll get a curveball question and then answer with something that's completely off the cuff, off topic, that's not correct. And unfortunately, the public takes that, or the media takes that, for absolute truth. And we should never do that. That should never be the case, where somebody takes something a politician, even a media person, has said and take that as absolute truth. That's where I keep going back to, go to the source data, find the answer for yourself. Yes, there can be misinformation online, but I would say major organizations like the CDC, that have some government funding but are supposed to be independent, and have a panel of experts and doctors and stuff like that, probably go to that to get your best information. And then, for how they're projecting numbers and how they're still, shutting things down and stuff like that, extending stay-at-home orders, I definitely don't agree with all of them. And I don't think one size fits all for that situation either. It's definitely negatively affecting a lot of people. You can actually ask one of the guys I work with back in February when we had our first few cases in the US. I told him I didn't think there was any way to stop this disease, that everybody was going to get it and it was going to be like the flu. And we're kind of getting to that point. Not downplaying the seriousness of the disease. It's very serious. It does have a higher death rate. It is going to displace a lot of people and affect them. But we can't let it affect us to the point to where we are negatively impacting every single person. And I think governors and even presidents and other people in charge at the very top should look at how can they provide solid guidance for businesses, for individuals, that is going to keep them safe, but also keep the economy going.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I guess one thought I want to bring up today, just to kind of plant some seed here for future conversations, and mainly because I don't have all the information yet, but I want to at least, like you said, you told a buddy of yours, and it's recorded, right? I want to just plant this because I don't know. I don't have a direction we're going with it yet, but it's information. My sister, her kid got diagnosed with Kawasaki's disease, and the doctors told them that they believe there's a direct link with COVID. They did test for COVID, but the tests have not come back yet. But I guess that however they test, the blood smears or whatnot for Kawasaki's disease did come back positive. Very rare. And they said right now they're seeing worldwide an outbreak of this, but it's a downstream thing of a complication from COVID. And the whole family was sick back in December with same symptomatic, like COVID symptoms. My family actually as well here, but totally autonomous from them. But the fact of the matter is, going back to the data, and I'm not judging anybody for using the stuff they have at this given point, but I think once we all let this, all the dust settle and things kind of blow over some, and we get back to a new normal, we're probably going to realize that, especially the antibody testing when that comes out fully, like to scale. I really do think we're going to find millions, not just thousands, but millions more people that were affected already, but we didn't know quite yet. And this is not like a, I don't trust the government conversations. I don't trust the medical professionals. I do think there's not enough data back yet, not enough true science to back up what we're doing. So that's where I'm saying, like, just, in general, I think we should all just take a deep breath. And we might have these strong opinions and feelings because we're all negatively affected right now at some fashion or another. Like, all three of us have been very blessed and fortunate that we're not like immediately affected horribly in most regards. But the fact of the matter is we're still affected. Like, nonetheless, our lives are changed right now. So to maybe have some more grace and patience with people, and maybe let your rational side like take over for a minute instead of just immediately jumping on that Facebook post. And like, for instance, I type things out like all the time, and I don't post it. I'll respond to a comment because I want to get it out, but I'll delete it because I know it's not going to help anybody.
Do that all.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, let's be nice to each other. Let's if you're a friend of someone yesterday just because they post something stupid today, like, dude, just give them a pass today. Like, take a chill pill.
Jordan, real quick to add some bolster to your argument. So I'm 99% sure it's Stanford University, but it's definitely some Southern California university, which I know Stanford's near the Bay Area, but some California university is conducting a study right now to see if COVID was on the Pacific well before the first reporting, because there have been some signs like your family has gone through that had a lot of the symptoms of COVID-19, but it wasn't diagnosed. My sister actually went to a conference in Reno, Nevada, had really bad respiratory symptoms, basically all the same symptoms as COVID-19, went to the doctor, has a test, and I can show you guys. It says on her results, it says pneumonia strain unknown, basically meaning that she had some form of pneumonia, but the strain was not identified yet, and they have no idea what it was. Not saying, I'm not trying to cause any conspiracy theory or anything like that, or do anything to like people start throwing on their tinfoil hats. But there is some validity to basically what you were saying, that there might be another strain, or there might have been, COVID cases in the U.S. well before we even knew about the disease. And there are some studies going on right now to try and trace that. My sister's actually applying to try and be part of that study to get her antibodies tested.
Oh my.
But yeah, to get her antibodies tested to see if it does come back as if she did have it.
My wife and I, well, all four of us in my family, we all had it, and I was told I had pneumonia. But then my sister came up into my house one day, and she's an infectious disease nurse, and she's like the director of the whole program right now. And anyways, she's like, "Hey, let me see your results real quick." So she pulled up my lab results on my phone, because I just assumed it was pneumonia. I took the meds, and about a week later, 2 weeks later, I got better, sort of. Anyways, she goes, "You never had pneumonia," because the radiologist actually gave their results or findings. But I never followed up. I just took the meds like a good old soldier would, right? We actually had a trip to New York, paid for, planned, and back in December, and we canceled. I mean, we were sick. I mean, it was bad enough we weren't going to push through. But anyways, yeah, our whole family had like quintessential, exactly what you're hearing in the news. But it was a pretty bad case though for our family. We were pretty sick for a while. But yeah, so I truly, I can't wait till I'm not going to throw the conspiracy out there yet. But I mean, just based off what I'm hearing, it'd be nice to have the antibody testing just to put it to bed a little bit. But I also think though, too, like the stats are going to change drastically. The death rate, like all that kind of stuff is going to just significantly, and in theory, it would be for the betterment of everybody. But I mean, I don't know. There's not enough supporting data either direction yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to go off of what you were saying before that too is, people need to take the information that they're getting from social media and from even national news or newspapers and stuff like that with a grain of salt. But the one thing that's never going to change is your neighbor is going to be your neighbor. Your friend from before is going to be your friend. And don't forget that. Like, try and be more neighborly, be there for your community, be more friendly online, take the positive out of this negative situation and try and, maximize your happiness throughout the day. You can only be so happy on Facebook before all the negative posts start getting to you. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like my news feed is like 70% to 80% negative all the time.
Mm,
And
yep.
I just try and basically scroll past it or go on Instagram because I feel like nobody posts anything negative on Instagram. It's always fun photos.
Yeah,
Um,
memes.
but yeah, just take this pandemic and try and take the positives out of it and maximize that happiness.
Yeah, I think we could all be a little bit more positive with it, and I'll add to your Facebook post. Yeah, the well over the majority of them are negative. I think it's by design to an extent, and then also, I mean, because how much research and testing and whatnot analysis has been gone into Facebook to get out of the app what they want to get, and they don't care about the human, that's sitting behind there working the app. So yeah, I feel like that's, it's a twofold problem. It's the person that's viewing and reposting and sharing and then commenting on the negativity, but then it's also the fault of the app. So to me, it's easy. Just don't watch it. Go do something else. I mean, there's a lot of things you could do other than just stare at a screen, read or learn to play a guitar or a keyboard, maybe like you choose.
Absolutely.
100%. 100% agree. Hey, one thing I want before we cut off today, I want to talk about. I'm starting that. Today was day 0, as we're going to call it. Tomorrow's day 1. It's a 21-day meditation challenge. So I've done something very similar before, just recently, and I'm doing my own now with my own people that want to be involved. If you've never done it before, like you can check in, see what it's like. Maybe it's not for you. I think the more you spend doing it and practicing it, and actually buying into the idea of like giving back to yourself. Right now, there's so much negativity out there, and I think left in a vacuum, negativity is going to win over positivity naturally. Like it's easier to be negative than it is to be positive. Just by, I don't know why, I don't have the reason for it, but just watching people and myself included, if I don't be intentional of being positive, sometimes it's easy to be negative. Just that's what comes first sometimes. And I'm a positive person typically by nature. But anyways, what I found for this meditation challenge is like you become a better person. You see way more positive every day because when you're looking for something positive, you see it. But if you're looking for something negative, you'll see that a lot quicker. So this is a very intentional way to try to combat some of the negativity that's happening and toxicity we're seeing right now. So anyways, I don't know when we're actually going to post this, but if you do start a couple of days late, everything's going to be in that group. So we can add you to the group and you can start a couple of days behind and that's totally fine. But I definitely challenge anybody that's feeling like they're, being beat up by life right now. I mean, what the heck else you got to lose? Give it a try, and it's free, so you don't have nothing to lose. You have probably extra time on your hands right now, most likely. So, give it a try.
Yeah, I'm on board. I'm already linked in on it, so I'm gonna give it a go and give it my 100% and whatnot. I think it's great to challenge yourself. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure it won't be easy every single day, but no, I think it's great.
I definitely appreciate both of you guys jumping in, and who knows where it's going to go, but I'd love to get what you guys have to say, give the feedback outside the group chat there. But just in general, there are tools like that. If people have ideas on what they're doing to be successful, to stay, in a positive winning mindset, like share them. We all need more tools in our tool bag. So, I'm figuring it out like everybody else is, but I am learning right now a ton. I'm reading a ton of books. I'm finding out what can I do to be a better person, because ultimately when we walk out at the end of this, like, what do we do in this meantime? We're writing history right now. Is it good or bad? And that's your decision to make, not the government's, not the next door neighbor that's spewing Facebook trash. You can take control right now and make your life better. Even if there's circumstances you can't control that are bad, there's micro wins in the macro picture.
100%. All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up. And, but yeah, thanks, Dan, for coming on. Really good to see you. Glad to see that you're doing well. Wish you nothing but the best. Stay in the fight with the kid. It's going to get rough, I promise. So yeah, but no, it's good. I'm glad to see you're doing well. Good to see you, man. So good to see you, Jordan, as well. So
likewise.
As the Looney Tunes would say, the Looney Tunes would say, that's all, folks.
That's all.
Hopefully I'll have a great weekend.
Take care.
Hey, take care, everybody.
Later.